So, Bitwig, it's been a DAW for a while, so...
No worries. Yeah, no worries.
So, like most modern DAWs, it has a clip launch ability where you can just randomly trigger clips as you like as it's going. So all of that's built in, and we're quickly adopting modern technology. It's why all the touchscreen stuff we've implemented for Windows or Linux, which can support it. But the new thing with Bitwig 3 that we've added is an environment for editing in a modular way called the grid. So this is basically the grid inside of Bitwig 3. So it's an environment that you can use in a few different ways, whether you're building a synthesizer or an audio effect or just an experiment with droning sounds or whatever. So there's different devices to load it inside of, but this is the way of editing it. So it's two things essentially. It's about over 120 modules at this point. That's going to be probably more later when we're ready to release. From very basic things, like just all the math operations you might need to do, basic functions, to pretty substantial oscillators, like you're seeing here, that have controls for changing the sound, filters, everything you might want. So half of it is that library of modules. The other half of this is the workflows that we've put into it, so that it's very fast and easy to create something. So, you know, this will make sense to people who've been doing it for 20 years, but to people who this is new to, we tried to make it very accessible so that you can just focus on sound. So why don't we just make a new patch real quick? So I'm just going to stop this, and so these are the 3 grid modules that are available. Polygrid for like a polyphonic if I want to build a normal synth where I'm playing multiple notes. Monogrid for those droning things, or like there was like a beatbox thing doing drums there. It's good with monogrid. I'm just triggering each note one at a time. Or effects grid for building an audio effect. So I'm going to start with polygrid real quick. So by default, and I'll just use the on-screen keyboard so you can see all of it together. So by default, so you've already got a sound coming out by default, and we've done a couple tricks to make it easy for that, where it automatically connects common things that you might do. Like the envelope generator is automatically saying, well, just listen to the keyboard input instead of making me connect it every time. So now I don't get sound because when I press this, it automatically listens to it. Similar with oscillator and pitch, etc., etc. Fewer patch cords, so you can actually look at what you want to focus on. And at the same time, it's more immediate because it's quick. So that's a basic waveform, but we've got some easy ways to manipulate it. To quickly turn it into something very different. So if we go from there, there's these workflows I'm talking about of trying to make it easy and fast and kind of fun to work on sound design. So maybe a triangle, it's a thin oscillator. Maybe I want something with more sound so I can work with it. I can just grab a sawtooth or something, and if I hold it on top of the same module, this would be the same if I use the mouse. Notice where the knobs are set to. It knows that this is an oscillator, and it tries to preserve your settings as much as possible, including the connections and everything. So, okay, I've got a sound, it's a lot richer now, maybe it's too much, I want to add a filter or something. So if I go ahead and say I want to find a filter, if I drag it onto a port or to the edge of a module, it realizes there's a cable there. So it figures, oh, you want to connect it. So it's already in the patch, it's already making it. So maybe I try something else, like a wave shaper to add some different tone to it. Kind of like the wave folder, it's a little bit of a unique way of manipulating things. It's a little too much for me. So if I select it and delete it, it put the patch cord back. Just because I deleted the module, I don't want all the sound to disappear. So I'm still going, I'm still programming sound. If I had notes looping in the background, I don't even have to touch the keyboard. I can just focus on changing things and making the sound I'm interested in. And on top of that, the fact that this is a full DAW, this isn't just a plugin, the program already knows everything. If I want a signal that gives me exactly the status of the transport and the speed that it's playing at, now I could add a step sequencer immediately, and it'll match the speed of the session exactly so that the bar lines, this is going exactly the length of one bar, sample accurate and connected. So whatever I make here, it will connect to the music already, whether I'm saying adjust the cutoff, polyphonic, you can have multiple copies going at the same time. So we're taking full advantage of being in the digital world, but we're trying to play nice with everybody. If you're the kind of person who has like modular hardware, we have single modules that can just say, oh, well, I like this step sequencer signal. I want to send it out over here. So maybe I say, okay, let's go to the ES8 port 8, and suddenly, whenever you're playing, the values are now coming over here. You can connect. You've got an input and output directly in the patch with routing. So you don't even have to go back to, oh, the mixer and where's it going? If you like this is now one patch potentially. So you can send signal back and forth, whether it's pitch or anything else, both directions. So people who are big onto this, I mean, you know, this just kind of became one big environment for you. So it connects that way, it connects in other ways to our DAW, but, you know, between syncing the time so accurately and playing nice with the outside world, you know, maybe you just want to have a microphone. Oh, sorry. We'll do an input. Maybe you just have a microphone you want to connect. Okay. Tell me which one it's coming from. Oh, there's some signal here. It happens to be that port where there's signal right now. Okay. Now he's a signal I can mix in or process or use as a control signal, whatever. So, there's been environments before, we're just trying to make it quicker, more direct. Our passions have always been modularity and like good, serious workflow that makes life easier. So, this is really joining the two of those together and saying, whether you just want to come in here and tweak one knob, or you're a user who never wants to see this, there's going to be sound content, and with the way Bitwig Studio is set up, I could just make it where it's like, okay, I need this when I'm performing, I need this when I'm performing, maybe I need this and this. Okay. Now I never have to look at that because these are controlling those parameters directly. And the one nice thing, if you look at the colors here, red and orange, right? So keep it focused there for 1 second. If I start moving these knobs, and now you can look at the controller, we've got red and orange labeled here because the way our API works, it knows it should automatically map anything red on screen to that knob, anything orange. Instead of having to manually set up what's controlling what, it just knows. If I switched over to the mixer, oh look, red, orange, yep, go ahead, turn knobs, please. Anyway, yeah, any of them. So once you connect to it, so go down, once it matches the value, then it'll take over. So the exact same colors are just being shown here, and you start to learn, oh, red, I know where that is, I just can work. Instead of like labeling, oh, that's volume 1, it's like, no, it's just red. Whatever's on screen that's red, it connects. So we've already done a lot of this work, and we're just building it into this new environment and a new way of working on sound design. So that's the short-ish version of Bitwig Studio 3.